It's 9 o'clock. Did you do your chores? Did you take your bath? Better scrub that butthole. In case you dig in it all night, right? January 1992. I was, what was I? 18. Turned 18 that month. There's this little skank running around the neighborhood named Silver. She was underage. I was like, nope, I don't want to go to jail. So my brother picked her up. So this is the Hermosa. This is probably one of my favorites. What was great about this amp was because it was made overseas, they were able to afford an actual terminal where the Punch 150, which is what this was supposed to be going up against, did not. It just had a, Molex. So, but yeah, these were great products. Nothing fancy, but again, this is 1992. Targa. What you don't see. And then it's just like a regular. This is what bumped means when they bump the T yoke, and this is what it means by vented. So let's see. Does affect what you hear? Not really. Especially because it's like a plastic cone and a foam surround. Nothing special. Stop saying you're special, kicker, and you're not special. ZZ Top, some little hottie. Want this baby in your garage. What's the word for that? It's not misogynistic. It's just guys being tacky, I guess would be the word. Sure would. Feedback. More fake boobs. Feel the beat from Pulse. Look at that. Look at that. To the max. SoundQuest. Lanzar. The LE. I don't know what that means. CD changers. Remember those? Remember CDs? There you go. With the horns, see? Usually those were like a Mylar or a piezoelectric. Is it piezo? And then the piezo horn. Not to be confused with Pisces. So, and then just regular kicker. Stillwater SS12. Compression. Well, I wouldn't say the compression mid-range, but there you go. See, yeah, 14 millimeter. Ferrofluid cold microdome super tweeters. They weren't really super. Just Mylar. There you go. What's funny is that's basically the same woofer as the, what was the Lightning Audio Bolt series. But that was like, their medium duty one. The Cardiac series. Look at that Alpine with that big old dome tweeter in there. That means it's audiophile quality. Big bass in a box. Kenwood. Just you against the road. Kenwood. Steel Stopper. They stopped stealing. There you go. There's the Ayahuasca guy. See, there's a guy in there. That's a little guy, and that's a woofer. The Orion Funny Car. The Hulk Hogan of auto sound is Richard Clark. Oh, good Lord. Richard Clark does steroids? What? There you go. More boobies. The Sony Simulator. You know what's funny is a lot of this is like, the peak or the height of, there you go, something to jack off to. The peak or the height of this sort of car culture. And it really was nothing at the time. But, a lot of people, High Pro, what was that? Crime Stopper, okay. There you go. See, now this is where I got my start in music. So what you did was you filled this out, and then you put like, I'm Christopher Eugene, because I thought Eugene started with a U back then. So Christopher Eugene P-E-E. And so the C-U-P, ha ha ha. And so then you pick out the ones you want, and then you send them a penny, and then you got like 8 CDs or 12 cassettes for a penny. They actually made you send the penny. It was so stupid. And then, they're sending a bill for a CUP, and you're like, hey, 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 hey. PSL, Philips Sound Labs, which those look very much like the LPG tweeters that were available to everyone. Here you go. The 2350 DM. That was some shit right there. It didn't really take off. I think it was maybe because it was too expensive. And I don't know. It just wasn't popular. I think this was before PPI's time. I think most guys were with Rockford or Orion at the time. So there you go. The Hollywood Sound Labs. Using that California vibe, just like LA sound. What's funny is people outside of California, even people in California, like to think that they're better than you. And you agree, right? That's from the Jewel song. Alpha Sonic. I actually had one of these. It's really dumb. They just put the heatsink on the inside, and then, of course, they were doing this before PPI did and all that stuff. But when PPI did it, it was like, ooh, something. But, yeah, man. The Beach Boys started that shit. Marketing gimmick about how California's better and it's always sunny and all that kind of stuff, and then everybody moves there, and then you get there and you're like, oh my god, there's so much pollution, there's too many fucking people, it's fucking stinks, nobody takes care of the beach, it's gross. You're like, why is there tar in the sand? Oh yeah, they pump oil just off the coast, so they're all supposed to be about the environment. But so that was one of the things that we saw when we moved to Hawaii. Was people would just throw a battery like right in the parking lot. They were just done with this battery. They wouldn't even bother to take it inside to get the $15 or whatever. They were like, brother, you do it. And then they would just throw it in a ravine, shit like that. Be surprised how many Hawaiians did not take care of their native lands. They were just pissed off at honky crackers, howlies. That's what they call them. That's what they call white people. Howley, one who is choking. Especially if you're blonde. Oh, you don't want to be blonde to go to Hawaii, or at least stay in the mainstream. There you go, the art series. Black and white ad. Essential components for serious sound quality. Absolute, yes, fun. Again, based in Phoenix, but, that looks more California looking, like the In and Out advertisement. ZZ Top. Yeah, I told you guys about that, where my new dad was taking my mom to the ZZ Top concert at the State Fair, and I go, oh, they're gonna got all the classics, Tube Stick Boogie, Pearl Necklace. And I go, Mom, you want to hear Pearl Necklace? And she said, oh yeah, I would love a pearl necklace. And then I looked at my new dad, and I was like, ha ha ha. You want to explain it to her, or do you want me to? And he's like, I'll explain it to her. And, ha ha. And then new dad had a heart attack and had to go get stents. Did it change his smoking or drinking? Nope. Nope. In fact, he probably drinks and smokes even more. There you go. That looks a lot like, well, maybe that's a hairstyle back then or something like that. I can't remember her name. She's some stripper. She got really big jugs. I followed her. It was great. At that time, we'd get the New Times newspaper because, number one, it was free. Number two, it had like sexy. We couldn't afford no hookers, so we didn't look at the hooker ads. But there's a lot of stripper ads, and it would show strippers with big tits and stuff like that. That was kind of cool. Like we could get into the strip club. That we could do. But the great little thing about the New Times was that they would have little classifieds for car audio, and then there would be these guys that worked at Rockford or whatever, and then they would have closeouts because every year they would have a sale for the employee sale where they basically cleared out all the B stock and things like that. So, and then you guys may remember back in 2006-ish to about 2009 or 10, the High Desert Audio on eBay. And that was Rockford's B stock, all their returns and things like that. So that's where I got a bunch of, what's her name? It wasn't Penelope Pumpkins. It was some other thing. There's the chiclet thing. And you look at this. I mean, this is not that great a quality, but for that time, that was all they could afford for tooling. There wasn't a lot of money in this. It's a very niche market, but it was enough to, afford a magazine, but it was only what, $3.25. You go look at a magazine now, and it doesn't even have naked chicks in it, and they want $10 for it, and you're like, what the fuck? There you go. I think these were made by Dick LeMay and Bernie Boland. I forget the name of the company that Bernie started. It was not called PPI or Orion. It was something else, but it was just the electronics company. So GNS Designs, they were just one of those companies that just did branding. So they already had this amp, then that's a sticker. Just put a sticker on there, and then presto, it's GNS. They did the same thing with the woofers. That and Eminem Godfather, same thing. Typically back then, it's just stupid radar detectors. There you go, high-tech cell phone. There you go. But back then, typically the only OEMs were, who was it? Eminence. A lot of people used Eminence, and Rapid Dye and Molding did the dust caps for Eminence and things like that. And then who else? Atomic. Atomic was one of the OEMs for American build stuff, and all they would do is just import it, in mass quantities from China. A lot of it. Sometimes they would buy here local domestic stuff if they were in a jam, but they've always been importing from China. They just would assemble here because back then the Chinese were not as sophisticated manufacturers as they are now. Now they're state of the art. So that's where the shit is. They're still, even back when I had a job, this was almost 20 years ago now, when I was working in semiconductor. What they do is they would end up programming the machines just so that they're dumb. So, they just boop, boop, just push a button so you can't fuck it up. And then, of course, that way, even they are concerned about, Chinese manufacturers, Chinese bosses, things like that, are concerned about labor costs. And then, of course, they don't want anybody to have any real skills, because then you can, have some leverage and do a labor movement or stuff like that. So again, this is just rebadging. Battery isolator back then, I don't know why they had all the heat sink on it, but they did. Because all this was is just relays with heat sinks on it. Maybe they just they couldn't find anybody to make beefy enough relays. I have those 200 amp and a pair of the 500 amp relays if anybody wants them. If not, I'm going to take them back to Recoil, because I took them as a favor to Larry, because I was like, I can get rid of them, and then nobody bought them, and I was like, oh. And then they're yelling at me, and they're like, you spend too much money. You owe us $6,000. And I was like, oh, what's my limit? And they're like, $5,000. I was like, oh, let me bring some stuff back. And they don't like that. They don't want you to bring any back. So let's look at this a little more carefully. The Denon cassette controller with the changer, and then a PPI DPX 2222 crossover with a PPI 2050. That's for the mid bass. And then the big PPI 2300 it would power 8 subwoofers. What? So it's probably, I don't remember if the 2300 sounds like it was a 2-channel, but, and then maybe these are all, this would be 4 ohm, and then they put series parallel to bridge it, whatever. So, or they put a pair for 2 ohm and then that stuff. So, and then they even told you what alarm they had and cord tweeters. So, cellular phone manufacturer's directory. And again, these guys were all just the OEM, I don't want to say the OEM, the manufacturing for electronics back then was Japan. Japan was the shit. So, things evolve, and then Japan starts outsourcing to Vietnam and Laos and China, of course. So, and then now, like I said, China is more sophisticated now. Now China outsources to Africa. So, and if you haven't noticed, that's what Africa, I forget which, there was some sort of plot line where they had that in there where China was basically purchasing Africa. I forget which movie it was, but anyways, who's this guy? Is this Ricky? Is that his Lotus? I forget who Ricky Starr. He's the Ricky Rocket of Poison. So, such a beautiful girl. Look at that WWE belt buckle, or WWF back then. So, and of course, Lanzar was Gary Cove, and he sold it, and then he went and started Cove. And then, of course, all he did was OEM out to it, to, at the time, Concept, who I bought out. These are all just definitions. So cute. Sassy in a nutshell. Southern Audio Services. And then it has a little factory thing where they take old sewer pipes and then they turn them into bass tubes. The man with the vision, David Prophet. Good for you, David. Look at that handsome guy. John Jordan. It's like the best bass comes from a tube. Actually, a tube is actually really inefficient. It's not big enough. In order for it to be big enough for a subwoofer enclosure, it has to actually be quite large. So, and it's, it's good for some applications, but for most applications, it's not. There you go. Audio art. What does that say? Is it Fart? No, Fart Pro? Fart 32 Pro? I don't know. Kickers. Big PPI decal on it. There we go. Denon. State of the art, guys. Okay, so it says passive crossover, but that's obviously an active crossover, meaning it's before the amplifier. It's in the preamp stage. But even at that level, the crossover works the same as you may have saw with the X cards, where it's just a resistor and a capacitor in a network. And then if there's other ways to do it too. There's a resistive way, and that's what you saw on the SIP cards or SIP chips on the Sedona series from PPI. Broadway. From KLW Audio. This is definitely a different look. Fused speaker outputs, and then I think that's probably power. Looks like it. X50 Professional Series. It's professional. What does that mean? And then it's got the OK, which was weird when people started calling that white power. It's like, what? That's not white power. It's okay. Or if you're a puppeteer, that's a bunny. There you go. See? There's a shadow puppet. That's a bunny rabbit. Gavin with Gibbons. And look at that. See, there you go, 1992. Use Your Illusion 1. This is before Use Your Illusion 2 dropped. Cold November rain. And then fuzzy guitars. Everybody loves fuzzy guitars. Dealer inquiries invited. Put your store in our magazine. We'll only charge you $1,000. And that's it, guys. See, I don't think that was as good as Car Audio and Electronics, but this was the more, snobby magazine. So that's volume 3, number 1 of January 1992 of Cadzilla? Ugh. Boy. That's really demeaning to the audience. It's really terrible. But what is it called? Don't ever punch down? Something like that. Anyways, I love you guys. Have a good night.